The M1 Garand, introduced in 1936, was a groundbreaking firearm for its time, changing the way infantry warfare was conducted. At the heart of its design was a semi-automatic mechanism that allowed soldiers to fire 8 rounds without needing to manually reload after each shot. This simple yet ingenious innovation made it vastly superior to the bolt-action rifles used by many other armies, including the German forces at the time. Its design was the result of years of research and development, spearheaded by John C. Garand, a Canadian-born engineer who worked for the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts. The rifle's semi-automatic firing capability marked a drastic departure from the slow and cumbersome bolt-action rifles that soldiers had been using in previous conflicts. With the Garand, a soldier could fire 8 rounds in quick succession, each round being chambered automatically after the trigger was pulled. This gave the user a significant advantage in combat, as they didn't have to spend time manually cycling the rifle between shots. For soldiers who were used to bolt-action rifles, which required a pause to reload and chamber the next round, the M1 Garand offered a clear tactical edge. In combat situations, speed is often the difference between life and death, and the ability to fire rapidly while keeping the enemy suppressed was a game changer. The M1 Garand's accuracy and power also made it highly effective against both infantry and light vehicles, further cementing its reputation as a formidable weapon. When General George S. Patton called the M1 Garand the greatest battle implement ever devised, he was acknowledging its transformative impact on infantry combat. Patton, known for his aggressive tactics and admiration for effective military tools, saw the Garand as more than just a rifle. It was a weapon that allowed soldiers to engage the enemy with far greater firepower, enhancing their effectiveness and altering the dynamics of battlefield strategy. The psychological impact of the M1 Garand on German soldiers cannot be overstated. Prior to its introduction, most soldiers in the world used bolt-action rifles, which meant they were familiar with the sound and rhythm of a weapon that required manual cycling. The sharp, unmistakable sound of the M1 Garand's ping after the last round was fired became infamous during World War II. The Germans, who were accustomed to slower firing rifles, were caught off guard by the M1's rapid fire capabilities. The Garand's ability to keep the enemy constantly on edge, never knowing when the next shot would come, played a role in the psychological warfare that was as important as the physical combat itself. German soldiers reported being unnerved by the sound of the Garand, knowing it signaled that their enemy was still armed and capable of firing at full capacity. Unlike the familiar rhythm of bolt-action rifles, which allowed for a moment of respite between shots, the Garand's semi-automatic action meant that a soldier could continue firing without interruption. The psychological pressure this created on German forces was significant, as they were forced to adapt to a new kind of battle rhythm. Beyond its psychological impact, the M1 Garand also changed military strategy by influencing the way infantry units operated. The ability to fire rapidly without needing to reload allowed American soldiers to take more aggressive positions and hold the initiative in firefights. In combat situations, the Garand allowed squads to suppress enemy movements more effectively, forcing the enemy to stay in cover or risk being hit by a barrage of rapid shots. In World War II, the Garand was used in every major battle involving American forces, from Normandy to the Pacific. Its performance in these battles spoke volumes about its reliability and effectiveness. In Normandy, for example, American troops used the Garand in urban combat and open field skirmishes alike, proving that it could handle a wide variety of combat scenarios. It was instrumental in the success of the D-Day invasion, where it was used to clear out enemy positions and provide covering fire for advancing infantry. The German response to the M1 Garand was one of adaptation and innovation. While the Germans had their own semi-automatic rifles, such as the WWII 43, they were not produced in the same quantities as the M1 Garand. The Germans attempted to counter the Garand's firepower with their own designs, but they were unable to match the sheer scale and efficiency of the American production line. The M1 Garand was mass-produced, and its widespread availability meant that it was in the hands of every American infantryman, from the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of the Pacific. The M1 Garand's legacy extends far beyond World War II. After the war, it served as a foundation for the development of future military firearms, including the M14, which was designed as a successor to the Garand. The M14, like the Garand, was a gas-operated, semi-automatic rifle, but it was chambered for a more powerful cartridge. While the M14 was eventually replaced by the M16 during the Vietnam War, it continued the Garand's legacy of semi-automatic fire in combat. The M1 Garand also left a lasting impact on the American military psyche. It was a symbol of American ingenuity and industrial power, representing the ability to out-produce and out-maneuver the enemy. Its influence extended beyond just military tactics. It became a point of national pride. The Garand's design and success were a testament to the American spirit of innovation and determination during one of the most challenging periods in modern history. The durability and reliability of the M1 Garand further contributed to its legendary status. Soldiers quickly came to trust the Garand to function in the harshest conditions. Whether it was in the freezing winters of the Ardennes or the sweltering heat of the Pacific Islands, the Garand continued to perform without fail, earning the respect and admiration of soldiers who relied on it to survive the brutality of war. In conclusion, the M1 Garand was not just a weapon, it was a defining piece of the American military effort during World War II. Its rapid-fire capabilities, psychological impact on the enemy, and role in reshaping infantry combat tactics made it a key factor in the success of American forces. General Patton's praise for the M1 Garand was not just about its technical capabilities, but also about the confidence it gave American soldiers and the fear it instilled in their enemies. The Garand was, and remains, a symbol of American military excellence. General George S. Patton was one of the most iconic military leaders of World War II, known for his bold strategies and no-nonsense attitude toward warfare. His admiration for the M1 Garand was not just about the weapon's technical capabilities, but also its role in enhancing the overall effectiveness of American forces in combat. Patton's recognition of the M1 Garand as the greatest battle implement ever devised was a clear endorsement of the rifle's significance to the war effort. Patton was not one to offer praise lightly, particularly when it came to military equipment. His endorsement of the M1 Garand was a rare moment of high praise for a weapon, which shows just how highly he regarded its impact on the battlefield. Patton's words were more than a compliment to the rifle's design. They were a testament to how the Garand helped American troops dominate their German counterparts in combat. During World War II, the M1 Garand became synonymous with the American infantryman. Its design was a game-changer, allowing soldiers to engage the enemy with greater speed and efficiency than ever before. In combat situations, the Garand's semi-automatic firing capability gave U.S. soldiers a decisive edge, and Patton, being a tactician of unparalleled foresight, understood this. The rifle's ability to fire rapidly without the need for manual cycling allowed American soldiers to suppress enemy fire more effectively and maintain offensive momentum. Patton, who was known for his aggressive and fast-moving style of warfare, saw the Garand as a critical tool in enabling his troops to carry out his vision of rapid, mobile combat. The rifle's capacity to deliver a high volume of fire without the delay of reloading made it perfect for Patton's approach to battle. He emphasized the need for quick, decisive action, and the M1 Garand fit perfectly into that strategy. One of the key aspects of Patton's praise for the M1 Garand was the rifle's role in increasing the combat effectiveness of individual soldiers. Unlike bolt-action rifles, which required soldiers to manually cycle the action after every shot, the Garand allowed soldiers to focus more on targeting and engaging the enemy. This improved the overall effectiveness of American forces, as soldiers could keep up a constant rate of fire, putting more pressure on the enemy and giving the U.S. military a significant advantage in battles. Patton's admiration for the M1 Garand also extended to its influence on the broader strategy of the U.S. Army. The rifle's efficiency and power allowed American forces to adopt a more aggressive posture, pushing the enemy back while maintaining a higher rate of fire. This fit well with Patton's strategy of using speed and aggression to disorient and overwhelm the enemy. In summary, Patton's praise for the M1 Garand was not just a recognition of its technical superiority, but also an acknowledgement of its impact on the broader strategic goals of the U.S. military during World War II. By calling it the greatest battle implement ever devised, Patton underscored the pivotal role the Garand played in the success of American forces in the war, allowing them to gain the upper hand against the Axis powers. The Garand was not just a rifle. It was a tool that enabled American soldiers to fight more effectively and decisively, aligning perfectly with Patton's aggressive approach to warfare. The M1 Garand didn't just give American soldiers an edge in terms of firepower and efficiency. It also had a profound psychological impact on their German adversaries. The very sound of the rifle, specifically the distinctive ping, when the last round was fired, became a symbol of American firepower that haunted German troops. This psychological warfare, coupled with the rifle's mechanical superiority, played a significant role in shaping the outcome of many battles during World War II. For soldiers used to the rhythm of bolt-action rifles, the M1 Garand's semi-automatic capabilities represented a terrifying shift in the dynamics of firefights. While the Germans were primarily armed with bolt-action rifles and the occasional semi-automatic, the Garand gave American infantry the ability to maintain a consistent rate of fire without pausing to reload after each shot. This rapid fire capability was not only effective in combat, but also contributed to an overwhelming psychological pressure that eroded the morale of German soldiers. When German soldiers encountered American troops equipped with the M1 Garand, they were facing a weapon that could unload 8 rounds in quick succession, forcing them to react faster and more cautiously than they were accustomed to. The Garand's rapid rate of fire left little room for the Germans to return fire effectively, especially in intense firefights where every second mattered. The sheer volume of incoming rounds often left German troops in a defensive posture, scrambling to find cover and neutralize the threat from the rapidly advancing American soldiers. Perhaps one of the most striking psychological effects of the M1 Garand was the distinctive ping sound made when the last round was fired and the clip was ejected. For German soldiers, the sound of that ping was not a sign of an empty weapon, but rather a warning that a soldier would soon reload and continue firing. This knowledge created a sense of unease, as it signaled that the American soldier was never truly out of the fight, ready to deliver another round of fire with minimal delay. The German soldiers knew that even when the Americans' rifles sounded empty, they would still face immediate retaliation, and this caused significant anxiety in the midst of combat. In contrast, the German soldiers were often faced with their own bolt-action rifles, which required more time to reload and cycle between shots. This disparity in the rate of fire placed the Germans at a disadvantage, particularly in close quarters combat or during assault operations. While the Germans had the advantage of precision with their weapons, the ability to fire rapidly without interruption was an equalizer that the M1 Garand provided to the American forces. The psychological stress on German soldiers was further compounded by the fact that the M1 Garand was mass-produced and issued to nearly every infantry soldier. In battle, they could never be sure when or where the next burst of fire would come from, and the noise of multiple Garands firing in rapid succession created a sense of constant pressure. This constant threat of being pinned down and outgunned by American forces made it difficult for German soldiers to execute their own tactics effectively, as they were always forced to account for the rapid and relentless assault from the U.S. infantry. The psychological impact of the M1 Garand was not just about the rifle's mechanical prowess. It also stemmed from the way it reshaped the tempo and intensity of battles. The rapid fire capabilities of the Garand meant that American soldiers could keep the pressure on the enemy, forcing them into a defensive posture and breaking the flow of combat. German forces, often used to longer engagements, where there were pauses between exchanges of fire, were unprepared for the relentless onslaught delivered by the Garand-equipped U.S. troops. In addition to the impact of the Garand's firing speed, the psychological toll on the Germans was further exacerbated by the fact that the Americans were equipped with a weapon that they viewed as technologically superior. This perception of superiority contributed to the growing realization among German troops that the tide of war was turning against them. as they were facing a well-armed, highly effective enemy. This sense of being outclassed by American technology likely contributed to the diminishing morale of German forces as the war progressed. In conclusion, the M1 Garand's rapid fire capabilities and distinctive sound created a psychological advantage for American forces on the battlefield. The constant threat of being overwhelmed by the Garand's firepower and the anxiety caused by the sound of the rifles' ping had a significant impact on the morale of German soldiers. By forcing the enemy to adopt defensive tactics and keeping them on edge, the M1 Garand played an important role in undermining the German resolve and contributing to the ultimate success of the Allied forces in World War II. The psychological warfare unleashed by this iconic rifle was as potent as its physical capabilities, making it one of the most feared and respected weapons of the war. The introduction of the M1 Garand did more than just provide a powerful tool for American infantry. It fundamentally changed the way that infantry combat was approached and executed. With its semi-automatic firing capability, the M1 Garand allowed soldiers to engage enemies with far greater efficiency and intensity, forcing military strategists to rethink traditional methods of warfare. The rifle's impact on military tactics was profound, shifting the dynamics of infantry combat in ways that were previously unimaginable. Before the M1 Garand, most soldiers in World War II, including those in the German and Allied forces, relied on bolt-action rifles, which required manual reloading after every shot. This limited the rate of fire and, in many cases, created a rhythm in combat that allowed soldiers to adjust and reposition between shots. Combat often consisted of deliberate exchanges of fire, with pauses for reloading and repositioning. However, the M1 Garand disrupted this traditional rhythm by allowing soldiers to maintain continuous fire without the need for manual cycling between shots. This capability drastically reduced the time soldiers spent reloading and allowed them to focus entirely on engaging the enemy. As a result, American infantry could suppress enemy movements and force them into defensive positions more effectively. The rifle's high rate of fire also made it easier to maintain pressure on the enemy during intense engagements, limiting their ability to regroup or counterattack. The shift in dynamics also had a broader impact on military strategy. The Garand's semi-automatic capabilities enabled a more aggressive form of infantry combat, in which soldiers could push forward with confidence, knowing they had the firepower to back up their movements. In past conflicts, soldiers were often cautious about advancing too far without heavy artillery or support, as they lacked the firepower to protect themselves adequately. But with the Garand, infantry could take the initiative and hold key positions without waiting for additional support, which was especially useful in fast-moving campaigns like the invasion of Normandy or the Battle of the Bulge. Additionally, the Garand changed the way in which squads were structured and operated. In traditional bolt-action combat, soldiers would often take turns firing, with one soldier providing covering fire while others repositioned or advanced. However, with the M1 Garand, the individual soldier became far more self-sufficient. The rifle's semi-automatic action allowed soldiers to take more responsibility for their own firepower, making them capable of handling a broader range of tasks within their squads. This shift toward more independent, aggressive tactics meant that squads could move more quickly and adapt to changing battle conditions without relying as heavily on support from other units. Another key shift was the increase in mobility and flexibility for American forces. The ability to suppress enemy fire effectively without constant reloading meant that infantry units could execute quick, surprise assaults with less risk. These fast-moving, fluid tactics allowed American forces to keep the Germans off balance, forcing them to continually adapt to new threats. In essence, the Garand enabled a level of maneuverability on the battlefield that was difficult for the enemy to counter, particularly when it was combined with other innovations in military strategy, such as Patton's emphasis on fast-moving armored warfare. The impact of the M1 Garand wasn't just limited to the battlefield itself. It also had a profound influence on the broader strategy of the war. The rifle allowed the United States to leverage its numerical advantage in infantry, providing each soldier with a weapon that could effectively hold off enemy attacks and maintain offensive pressure. This shift in how infantry units operated was instrumental in the success of American operations across Europe and the Pacific, where fast, aggressive maneuvers often made the difference between victory and defeat. Moreover, the Garand's widespread use helped the U.S. military maintain a continuous offensive against Axis forces. While German forces, for example, were often stuck with bolt-action rifles and slower reloading weapons, the M1 Garand gave American soldiers the ability to sustain pressure and maintain their momentum. This shift in the tactical landscape played a significant role in the U.S. Army's ability to win battles quickly and decisively, minimizing casualties and forcing the enemy into retreat. The M1 Garand's role in shaping military strategy also had lasting effects on the design of future military rifles. Following the success of the Garand, later weapons such as the M14 and the M16 took inspiration from its semi-automatic firing system. The ability to deliver rapid, accurate fire became a hallmark of U.S. infantry tactics in the post-WWII era, and the Garand's impact can still be seen in modern military rifles used today. In conclusion, the M1 Garand's role in changing military strategy was nothing short of revolutionary. By introducing a semi-automatic rifle that allowed for continuous fire and improved infantry mobility, it forced military tacticians to rethink traditional strategies and embrace more aggressive, flexible combat approaches. The rifle's effectiveness on the battlefield gave American forces a decisive edge over their adversaries, helping them to execute rapid maneuvers, suppress enemy movements, and maintain the initiative in key battles throughout the war. The legacy of the M1 Garand's influence on military strategy can still be seen in modern combat tactics, where speed, firepower, and flexibility are crucial to success. The introduction of the M1 Garand into the U.S. Army during World War II was a game-changing moment in infantry warfare. However, its success on the battlefield was not solely attributed to the rifle's technical superiority. Effective training was crucial for maximizing the Garand's potential. The U.S. military recognized early on that equipping soldiers with the Garand was only part of the equation. Proper training in marksmanship, rifle handling, and tactics was essential to ensure that the weapon could be used to its fullest advantage. Unlike the bolt-action rifles that many soldiers had used previously, the M1 Garand required soldiers to learn new skills to handle its semi-automatic functionality. This was not just a matter of learning how to fire the rifle. It was about mastering the mechanics of a weapon that could quickly deliver 8 shots in rapid succession. To achieve the level of proficiency required, the military established rigorous training programs to ensure that soldiers could handle the rifle with precision under combat conditions. One of the primary aspects of Garand training was marksmanship. Soldiers had to learn not only how to aim, but also how to fire quickly and accurately while maintaining control over the weapon. The Garand's semi-automatic action meant that soldiers could fire rapidly without needing to manually cycle the bolt between shots. But this also meant that soldiers needed to ensure each shot counted. Effective marksmanship training, which emphasized both precision and speed, was essential to make the best use of the Garand's capabilities. The goal was to ensure that soldiers could engage targets at various ranges, whether in open combat or urban settings, with accuracy and efficiency. Another key element of training was the handling of the rifle, especially the mechanics of loading, unloading, and reloading. The Garand was equipped with an 8-round block clip, which had to be inserted into the rifle to feed rounds into the chamber. Soldiers needed to practice loading the clip quickly and efficiently, as reloading under pressure was a critical skill in the heat of battle. The M1 Garand's distinctive ping sound when the clip was ejected became synonymous with its reloading process, and soldiers had to master this procedure to keep the rifle firing while maintaining situational awareness. Soldiers also had to become accustomed to the recoil of the Garand. The rifle's .30-06 cartridge was powerful, and the recoil could be significant for those who had not trained with such a weapon before. Effective recoil management was crucial to ensuring that soldiers could maintain their aim and continue firing without losing control of the rifle. Training included both static and dynamic exercises to help soldiers become comfortable with the rifle's recoil, allowing them to stay on target even in the heat of battle. Beyond marksmanship and handling, training also focused on the tactical use of the Garand in combat situations. Soldiers were taught how to move with their rifles, how to use cover effectively, and how to operate as part of a squad. The Garand's semi-automatic firing capability allowed soldiers to suppress enemy fire and advance quickly, but this had to be balanced with tactical awareness. Soldiers trained to use the Garand had to understand when to provide covering fire, when to advance, and when to reload. These tactical lessons were woven into the training programs to ensure that soldiers didn't just know how to fire the rifle, but also how to use it in the context of military strategy. Additionally, soldiers needed to understand the rifle's maintenance and upkeep. The M1 Garand, like all weapons, required regular cleaning and inspection to ensure it functioned properly. A malfunctioning rifle in the heat of battle could be disastrous, so soldiers were trained to clean and maintain their Garands effectively in the field, even under challenging conditions. This training focused not just on the mechanics of disassembling and reassembling the rifle, but also on recognizing and addressing common malfunctions that could occur during combat. The importance of training was not limited to just the rifle itself. It was also about creating a cohesive fighting force that could maximize the effectiveness of the M1 Garand in the broader context of warfare. Soldiers who were trained to use the Garand effectively understood their role in the squad, and this sense of teamwork was crucial in implementing the aggressive, fast-moving tactics that characterized American infantry strategy during the war. The training ensured that soldiers could not only fire the weapon effectively, but also work together to maintain constant pressure on the enemy. In conclusion, the training of soldiers to effectively use the M1 Garand was a critical factor in the rifle's success on the battlefield. Marksmanship, rifle handling, recoil management, tactical awareness, and weapon maintenance all played an essential role in ensuring that soldiers could take full advantage of the Garand's capabilities. The military's focus on thorough, specialized training ensured that U.S. infantrymen were equipped to handle the Garand under combat conditions, contributing to the rifle's effectiveness as a game-changing weapon in World War II. Proper training helped soldiers become more than just riflemen. It helped them become confident, capable combatants who could make the most of the Garand's power and precision in the heat of battle. The M1 Garand played an instrumental role in many of the most pivotal battles of World War II, demonstrating its superiority in the hands of U.S. soldiers. From the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of the Pacific, the Garand was a key asset that significantly contributed to the success of American forces. In each of these battles, the rifle's semi-automatic firing capability, its reliability, and the speed with which soldiers could engage the enemy made it an invaluable tool on the front lines. D-Day, Normandy invasion, 1944. One of the most iconic uses of the M1 Garand was during the D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944. The Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy to liberate France from German occupation, and American soldiers, armed with M1 Garands, found themselves in the thick of the action. As troops landed on the beaches, they faced a hail of German fire from entrenched positions. The Garand allowed U.S. soldiers to maintain suppressive fire while advancing, making it easier for them to secure key positions and neutralize German machine gun nests and snipers. The rifle's semi-automatic action allowed American soldiers to quickly respond to the enemy's fire and return fire at a faster rate than their German counterparts, who primarily used bolt-action rifles. The Garand's effectiveness during the intense fighting in Normandy helped American infantry hold critical positions and push forward despite the high casualties. The rifle became synonymous with the American forces' determination to gain ground and break the German defensive lines, demonstrating its superiority in one of the most brutal landings in military history, the Battle of the Bulge 1944-1945. The Battle of the Bulge, the largest and bloodiest battle fought by the U.S. Army during World War II, took place in the Ardennes Forest in Belgium during the winter of 1944-1945. In the midst of extreme cold, rough terrain, and fierce German resistance, the M1 Garand proved its worth once again. Despite the harsh conditions, the Garand's semi-automatic fire gave American infantry a distinct advantage. The ability to suppress German forces while maneuvering through the dense forest and snowy terrain helped the U.S. troops maintain their offensive. During this battle, American soldiers faced a surprise German offensive, and the Garand's rapid fire capabilities allowed U.S. infantrymen to hold their positions and inflict significant damage on the German forces, preventing them from breaking through to critical supply lines. The M1 Garand's effectiveness in this battle reinforced its reputation as a weapon that could perform under the most challenging conditions, from the brutal winter to the intense combat against a determined enemy. The Pacific Theater Iwo Jima's 1945. In the Pacific Theater, the M1 Garand was just as effective in the island hopping campaigns as it was in Europe. One of the most notable battles where the Garand showed its worth was during the Battle of Iwo Jima, one of the bloodiest battles fought between the United States and Japan. The Garand played a key role in the brutal combat on the island, where U.S. Marines had to overcome heavily fortified Japanese positions entrenched in caves, bunkers, and tunnels. The semi-automatic fire provided by the Garand allowed U.S. Marines to deliver sustained suppressive fire while advancing on enemy positions, a crucial advantage in the close quarters combat that defined the battle. While the Japanese forces had their own rifles and machine guns, they were often outgunned and outmanned due to the rapid and continuous fire capabilities of the Garand. The ability to deliver quick, accurate shots made the Garand a lethal tool for clearing entrenched positions and neutralizing Japanese forces hiding in caves or behind bunkers. The Battle of Okinawa in 1945. During the Battle of Okinawa, another pivotal engagement in the Pacific, the M1 Garand once again proved itself in a brutal environment. The battle was fought in close quarters, with heavy combat in dense jungles, steep hills, and fortified enemy positions. The Garand was particularly effective in providing cover fire for advancing infantry units, allowing them to suppress Japanese machine guns and snipers while maneuvering through the treacherous terrain. Its semi-automatic function made it ideal for suppressing enemy fire at longer ranges, giving U.S. soldiers a tactical advantage when fighting in dense jungle or across open terrain. The Garand's ability to quickly fire and then reload without having to manually cycle the weapon allowed American soldiers to maintain the initiative and respond to sudden enemy attacks with speed and precision. This was especially important during the intense fighting around the Shuri Castle and the high ground of Okinawa, where every inch of ground was contested. The Italian campaign Monte Cassino, 1944. In the Italian campaign, particularly during the Battle of Monte Cassino, the M1 Garand played a vital role in the Allied advance through Italy. The Battle for Monte Cassino, where Allied forces sought to break through German defensive lines, was one of the most challenging engagements of the war. The Garand's ability to provide rapid fire and suppress German machine gun positions and infantry allowed American and Allied forces to push through the defensive lines and eventually capture the Monte Cassino area. The Garand's performance in this mountainous and rugged terrain helped U.S. forces fight through fortified German positions that had been built over months. The rifle's versatility in both open and close range combat made it ideal for the varied conditions of the Italian front, further cementing its role in the Allied victory in Italy. Summary of impact across multiple fronts across these varied theaters of war. The M1 Garand consistently demonstrated its reliability, versatility, and effectiveness. Whether in the open fields of Europe or the dense jungles of the Pacific, the rifle proved to be an indispensable tool for American soldiers. It provided them with the firepower to suppress enemy fire, the speed to maintain offensive operations, and the precision to eliminate threats at both short and long ranges. The Garand's ability to be effective in so many different combat scenarios contributed greatly to the success of U.S. forces in World War II, making it a weapon that is remembered as one of the most significant of the war. In conclusion, the M1 Garand's role in key World War II battles was not just a testament to its technical capabilities, but also to its ability to shape the outcome of engagements. From the chaos of D-Day to the brutal Pacific Island battles, the Garand gave American soldiers a tactical advantage that helped them secure victory across multiple fronts. Its effectiveness in combat was a direct result of its design, its impact on military tactics, and the bravery of the soldiers who wielded it. The Garand's contribution to the Allied war effort cannot be overstated, and its legacy continues to resonate in military history. The M1 Garand's presence on the battlefield was a shock to the German military, as the Allies made significant strides through Europe and the Pacific. German forces were forced to confront the reality of a superior weapon in the hands of their American adversaries. The Garand's semi-automatic firing system offered a level of firepower and efficiency that German troops were not accustomed to, and this prompted them to attempt to counter or replicate its capabilities. At the start of World War II, Germany's primary infantry weapon was the Mauser Kar-9 a bolt-action rifle that was known for its accuracy and reliability but required soldiers to manually cycle the action after each shot. The Kar-9, while effective in many ways, lacked the semi-automatic capability that the M1 Garand introduced, which gave the American soldier a significant advantage in terms of both fire rate and psychological impact. Germany's response to the rise of semi-automatic rifles began with attempts to replicate the success of the Garand through their own designs. The most notable of these efforts was the WWII G43, a semi-automatic rifle that was introduced by the Germans in 1943. The G43 was chambered in the same 7.92 57 Mauser cartridge as the Mauser Kar-9 and was designed to be a direct competitor to the Garand. Despite its impressive design and capabilities, the G43 was produced in far smaller numbers than the M1 Garand, limiting its impact on the battlefield. The German military struggled with the production of the G43, as they faced difficulties in securing enough resources to manufacture the rifle in the quantities needed to equip their infantry. While the G43 was effective when it did see action, it never reached the scale of production that the M1 Garand did for the American military. The Germans were also dealing with a rapidly deteriorating war economy, which made it difficult to maintain the same level of technological innovation and mass production that the United States was able to achieve. Another attempt by the Germans to counter the firepower of the M1 Garand was through the development of the Sturmgewehr 44 CG-44, considered by many to be the first true assault rifle. The CG-44 was a revolutionary weapon that combined the capabilities of both a rifle and a submachine gun, offering a high rate of fire and greater maneuverability. While the CG-44 was not a direct response to the M1 Garand, it was part of a broader German strategy to create more versatile, effective weapons for infantry troops. The CG-44 proved to be a significant leap forward in military rifle design, influencing the development of future assault rifles such as the AK-47, but it was not able to match the Garand's semi-automatic fire rate or widespread use in the same way. Despite these attempts to match or counter the Garand, the Germans were hampered by several factors that hindered their ability to produce an equivalent weapon. The lack of resources, combined with the challenges of wartime production, meant that the M1 Garand remained a decisive advantage for U.S. forces. The Americans were able to equip their infantry with semi-automatic rifles in large numbers, creating a battlefield advantage that the Germans could not overcome. In addition to the challenges in replicating the Garand's semi-automatic action, the Germans also had to contend with the psychological impact of the weapon. As the war progressed, the sound of the M1 Garand's ping when the last round was fired became a symbol of American firepower and an unsettling reminder to German soldiers of the rapid, relentless fire that they faced. The Germans, who were used to slower, bolt-action combat, found it difficult to counter the fast and sustained fire provided by the Garand. German commanders also began to adjust their tactics in response to the Garand's effectiveness. They placed greater emphasis on the use of machine guns and automatic weapons, recognizing that maintaining suppressive fire was key to counteracting the speed and volume of fire that American infantry could unleash. However, these countermeasures were not always successful, as machine guns, while powerful, were often stationary and vulnerable to more mobile American forces. The flexibility and rapid fire of the M1 Garand allowed American soldiers to maintain a more fluid, dynamic approach to combat, leaving German forces struggling to keep up. By the latter stages of the war, the Germans began experimenting with various automatic and semi-automatic designs, including the FG-42, a selective fire rifle used by German paratroopers, and the aforementioned StG-44. While these weapons were innovative, they were not produced in sufficient numbers to make a significant difference in the overall outcome of the war. The sheer volume of M1 Garands produced and the ability of American forces to maintain constant offensive pressure meant that the Germans were always at a disadvantage when facing U.S. infantry. Ultimately, the German response to the M1 Garand was one of adaptation, but it was too little, too late. While the Germans did develop some impressive weapons during the war, they could not match the Garand in terms of its semi-automatic capabilities, production scale, or its influence on the battlefield. The Garand was a symbol of American ingenuity and industrial power, and it gave U.S. forces a significant edge in combat. The German attempts to counter the Garand were part of a broader pattern of tactical and technological responses to American military superiority, but these efforts never managed to bridge the gap. In conclusion, the German response to the M1 Garand highlights the significant technological gap between the Allied and Axis forces during World War II. While the Germans made notable attempts to counter the Garand's semi-automatic firepower with their own designs, they were hindered by resource shortages, production limitations, and the sheer effectiveness of the Garand in combat. The inability of the German military to match or replicate the Garand on a large scale was a crucial factor in the overall success of U.S. forces during the war. The M1 Garand was not just a weapon of war. It was a game changer that shifted the balance of power in favor of the Allies. The M1 Garand's legacy extends far beyond World War II. After the war, the rifle's design and the lessons learned from its battlefield performance had a profound impact on the development of future military firearms. The Garand was not just a remarkable weapon in its time. It set the stage for the evolution of modern military rifles and influenced the design of firearms used by armies around the world. After the conclusion of World War II, the M1 Garand continued to serve in the U.S. military for many years, even though its production ceased in 1949. Its success during the war, however, led to continued interest in its design and contributed to the development of subsequent firearms, most notably the M14 rifle. The M14 was directly influenced by the Garand, retaining the semi-automatic action but incorporating modifications to allow for the use of a more powerful 7.6251mm NATO cartridge. The M14 was designed as the U.S. military's standard issue rifle following the Garand, and while it was eventually replaced by the M16, the M14 continued to serve in specialized roles such as sniper rifles and designated marksman rifles. The M14's semi-automatic design was essentially a refinement of the Garand's operating system, and it retained much of the Garand's operational characteristics, including its gas-operated, rotating bolt mechanism. The M14's ability to fire semi-automatically, combined with the increased power of the 7.62mm cartridge, made it a formidable weapon for the U.S. military during the early stages of the Cold War, particularly in conflicts like the Korean War and the Vietnam War, though the M14 eventually gave way to the more versatile M16. Its design philosophy was heavily rooted in the Garand's legacy, highlighting the lasting impact of the M1 on subsequent military firearms. The M1 Garand also influenced the development of other military rifles worldwide. Its semi-automatic system became a standard feature in many post-war designs, and its success encouraged the global trend toward automatic or semi-automatic rifles. The Soviet Union, for example, developed the SKS rifle, which used a similar gas-operated mechanism, and eventually the AK-47, one of the most widely used and influential assault rifles in the world. Though the AK-47 differed in many respects from the M1 Garand, the principles of reliable, rapid fire and the need for effective infantry weapons were shared in both designs. In addition to influencing subsequent military rifles, the Garand's legacy also affected the development of firearms for law enforcement and civilian use. The rifle's success led to an increased focus on developing semi-automatic and automatic weapons for a wide range of applications. While the M1 Garand itself was not widely used in law enforcement or civilian markets after its military service, its design principles and operational efficiency became a benchmark for future weapons development. The M1 Garand's legacy is also evident in the continued use of semi-automatic rifles by modern military forces around the world. While many militaries transitioned to fully automatic weapons like the M16, the fundamental concepts pioneered by the Garand, semi-automatic fire accuracy and reliability, continue to be seen in the design of military rifles today. The Garand demonstrated that a semi-automatic rifle could be an essential tool for infantry combat, providing both accuracy and firepower, and this lesson was carried forward into the development of later firearms. The rifle's influence can also be seen in the ongoing reverence for the Garand by military historians, collectors, and enthusiasts. The Garand has earned a place of pride in the annals of military history, with veterans often fondly recalling its performance in battle. Its ruggedness, reliability, and firepower have made it a symbol of American military ingenuity, and many military historians consider it to be one of the greatest infantry rifles ever created. In the decades following the war, the Garand became a fixture in museums and historical collections, where it continues to be celebrated for its role in the victory of the Allies in World War II. Moreover, the M1 Garand has also maintained a lasting presence in shooting sports. The rifle is still used in competitive shooting events today, particularly in matches held by organizations such as the Civilian Marksmanship Program (CMP). The Garand's accuracy, manageable recoil, and historical significance make it a popular choice among enthusiasts who appreciate both its historical importance and its functionality as a sport rifle. Many veterans who use the Garand in combat also enjoy shooting the rifle in civilian competitions, preserving the rifle's legacy for future generations. In conclusion, the M1 Garand's legacy is far-reaching, with its design influencing not only the firearms used in subsequent conflicts, but also shaping the development of military weapons in the years following World War II. The rifle's semi-automatic action, reliability, and performance under combat conditions set a standard that informed the design of future military firearms, including the M14 and the M16. Its impact can still be seen in modern military rifles, and in the continued interest and use of the Garand by shooting enthusiasts and collectors. The M1 Garand remains a symbol of American military innovation, and its influence continues to resonate in the world of firearms and beyond. The M1 Garand was not merely a tool of war. It became a symbol of American strength, ingenuity, and the country's growing dominance on the global stage during and after World War II. The rifle's introduction marked a turning point in how the United States approached modern warfare and how it viewed its military identity. The M1 Garand was not just a technological leap forward in weaponry. It became a part of the American psyche, a symbol of the power that the U.S. military could bring to bear against its enemies, reinforcing the idea that the U.S. military was not only capable but was an innovative force to be reckoned with. The M1 Garand's adoption by U.S. forces reflected America's ability to adapt and overcome. At the beginning of World War II, the U.S. military was not as well prepared as it would become by the end of the conflict. America's industrial power, however, allowed it to rapidly develop and deploy new technologies that would change the course of the war. The M1 Garand was one of the first clear demonstrations of this industrial might. Manufactured in vast quantities by American factories, it put a powerful tool in the hands of every U.S. infantryman. It was a weapon designed not only for efficiency and effectiveness, but also as a testament to the growing technological prowess of the United States. Patton's famous remark about the Garand being the greatest battle implement ever devised encapsulated the sentiment of American military confidence during the war. The M1 Garand became the embodiment of American innovation, a rifle that not only gave the U.S. military an edge on the battlefield, but also represented a sense of pride and superiority. For the soldiers using it, the rifle became more than just a weapon. It was an integral part of their identity as American soldiers, helping to forge a collective sense of purpose and belief in their cause. In a symbolic sense, the Garand was an extension of the American spirit, efficient, powerful, and relentless. As American soldiers advanced across Europe and the Pacific, the Garand became synonymous with their success. The rapid fire, the steady recoil, and the iconic ping of the empty clip all became part of the American military experience, turning the M1 Garand into a symbol of U.S. superiority. It wasn't just the technical aspects of the rifle that made it a symbol, but also the fact that it allowed American forces to maintain control of the battlefield and keep the momentum of the war firmly in their hands. The Garand's legacy of innovation and technological superiority went beyond its physical performance. As the United States emerged from the war as a superpower, the M1 Garand became a symbol of the country's military capabilities and its global influence. In the post-war world, the United States was seen not only as a victor, but as a technological leader, and the Garand played a role in shaping that perception. The rifle's success was part of the larger narrative of American ingenuity that saw the U.S. military become a dominant force in the world, and it reinforced the idea that the U.S. was at the forefront of military innovation. The Garand's impact also played a role in the growing identity of American veterans. For the soldiers who fought in World War II, the M1 Garand was a constant companion in battle, a weapon that represented their efforts, struggles, and triumphs. It became an emblem of their sacrifice and contribution to the Allied victory. After the war, many veterans carried the memories of the Garand with them, and the rifle became a shared experience that bonded them together. It was a tangible connection to their service and a reminder of the role they played in securing peace and shaping the future of the world. The rifle's continued presence in American military history further solidified its symbolic importance. Even after the Garand was replaced by more modern rifles like the M14 and M16, it remained an integral part of American military culture. Veterans continued to recall their experiences with the rifle, and the Garand became a popular collector's item, with many people taking pride in owning and firing the iconic weapon. The Civilian Marksmanship Program, CMP, which promotes firearms safety and marksmanship, became a key organization in preserving the Garand's legacy, allowing new generations of Americans to connect with the history of the rifle and the soldiers who used it. The M1 Garand's place in American military identity was cemented by its performance in key battles of World War II. The rifle was a game-changer in the way infantry engaged with the enemy, providing U.S. soldiers with the firepower and reliability they needed to secure victory. Its presence in major campaigns, such as the invasion of Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge, highlighted not only its technical superiority, but also the courage and determination of the American soldier who wielded it. It was more than just a rifle. It was a symbol of the American military ethos of resilience, innovation, and strength. The rifle also played a role in shaping the perception of the U.S. military in the years following the war. As the Cold War loomed and America faced new geopolitical challenges, the Garand remained a symbol of military preparedness and technological advancement. It was a reminder to both allies and adversaries of the power the United States could project, and it bolstered the image of the U.S. as a dominant force in global affairs. In conclusion, the M1 Garand transcended its role as a military weapon to become a symbol of American strength, innovation, and the country's emerging global dominance. It was a tool of war that helped to shape the outcome of World War II, but its significance went far beyond the battlefield. The Garand represented the technological superiority and industrial might of the United States, reinforcing the image of America as a global leader in military innovation. Its legacy lives on not just in military history, but in the identity of American soldiers, veterans, and civilians who continue to honor its place in history.